Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this session on scaling up digital wages, empowering migrant workers and their families for inclusion and security. This session is co-organized by the International Labour Organization and the United Nations Capital Development Fund. My name is Valérie Breda. I lead the ILO's Global Center on Digital Wages for Decent Work. It is an initiative that seeks to accelerate the transition from cash to digital wage payment. That is payment of wages on bank accounts, on mobile money accounts, or on prepaid cards. We are delighted to have the opportunity to discuss this topic of digital wages in this Financial Inclusion Week, and to discuss it in the context of labor migration. The ILO estimates that there are 169 million migrant workers around the globe. Migrant workers contribute to growth and development in the destination countries as well as in their origin countries. Many of them continue to receive their wages in cash. It is risky, it is inefficient, it is disempowering, and migrant workers often have to rely on expensive remittance solutions to transfer the money back home. More and more receiving countries are promoting or requiring, in some cases, digital wage payments for migrant workers to ensure safe, timely, and full payments of wages, and to foster financial inclusion of migrant workers. In parallel, at the same time, the rapid changes in the financial sector have led to the emergence of digital wage payment solutions and other financial services that create a stronger pathway to financial inclusion, greater economic opportunities, and resilience for migrant workers. As you can see, we have a great panel of experts today that will share with us financial innovations, how they create social and economic benefits for women and men migrant workers, but also how new risks and challenges need to be addressed. Before we start, I would like to inform that you can post your comment on your question on the Q&A and the comment box during the session. Let me introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Robin Gravenstein. Robin leads the Systems and Research Team on Digital Finance and Inclusive Economies at UNCDF, focusing on the global effort around migration and remittances. UNCDF has conducted a study of selected financial service providers that are offering innovative financial products and services to serve better migrant workers. Robin, let me give you the floor so that you can tell us a little bit more about the main findings of your studies. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Valerie. And yes, as Valerie mentioned, wage digitization indeed may not just benefit migrant workers, but also the families living in developing countries. For example, through international remittances and other uptake of other financial services. Now, for migrant workers, digitization on wage payment means, of course, that the wages can be received faster, more secure, and also more safely and convenient. But it can also reduce, for example, late payments or non-payments, which is a labor right, and therefore, yeah. So very important, clearly. For employers, which is another a major stakeholder, of course, in this whole chain, transitioning from cash to digital wages can reduce payroll cost and cash management cost, sometimes between 2 to 7% even, compared to digital, which is then only 1%. And for financial institutions, and that's what our study is kind of focusing on. Well, it's good to know the Findex kind of shows that 4 out of 10 adults in developing economies open their bank account or their first financial account specifically to receive wage payments or government transfers. So it's a major use case, if not the most important use case. You open a bank account because of your incomes and not only because of your expenses, clearly. And other studies from UNCDF, BTCA, the ILO, the Social Finance Program, also indicate that digitization of wage payment is the key first transactions in the financial journey of any customer, including, of course, also migrant workers. And once earnings are digital, once they're received in a bank or once they're received in a wallet, then you can utilize and link them to other financial services. It's going to be very hard if every time it's cashed out and then you need to put it in the savings account across the street. So if you want to link it to international remittances, domestic payments, savings, insurance, especially for a group like migrant workers, which is very harder to reach segment for many of the banks, then the digitization of incomes is absolutely crucial. So if it all sounds that simple, we just digitize it, we connect the employers, the service providers, and migrant workers, then why hasn't it been done yet before? And of course, that's because there's several barriers that are there. Some we put on the slide here. For example, the employers, they may say, well, you know, I simply prefer pay my workers in cash. So some of them may not have a formal contract, or they may work in the informal sector altogether. But also they may wonder, how can it benefit my company? Especially if you're a small company, it may not always be beneficial to digitize wages in full. For the migrant workers on the other side, of course, they may say the same thing. They may say, well, I prefer to receive it in cash because most of my expenditures are also in cash. And it may not be comfortable, and it's also something that we find in many of our studies to utilize digital financial services. Women, for example, migrants, women have are more lagging behind on digital remittances than men are. And often these are also related to financial literacy issues. Now, we felt that both from the migrant side and the employer side, these things have been reasonably documented. But what we kind of missed is this study that looked at the financial service providers as well and the wage service provider. What could be in it for them? What could be the business case for them? And how viable is it? So if we can move to the next slide. So basically, we want to present some real life examples, real life practical business models that are already out there for low income migrants and that offer various financial institutions, offered by various financial institutions. For example, we looked at a wage service provider, wage processing firm, Edenred. We looked at a fintech, Wizall in West Africa. We looked at a mobile network operator, Singtel. And then, of course, the two other companies, which we're happy to, really glad to have on this call, Merchant Trade, which from origin is a money transfer operator, and MFS Africa, which is a payment aggregator. And I'll present the first three for this purpose, of course, because MFS Africa and Merchant Trade are much better presenting their own case studies than I am. So let me start with the first model here, the Edenred. So Edenred is traditionally a wage processing service company, but they partner with financial institutions. And for example, they've done this with Rackbank in the UAE. So it's a wage processing firm that moves into financial markets, if you like. And migrants can receive their wages now on a bank card provided by Rackbank. And they can also remit the money back home through that card instantly. And employers, in this case, they can support the migrants in the onboarding process of the apps. But also Edenred allows to focus payroll payments, for example, and remittances payments in bulk and supports the employers again with that. Another model is the opposite, is kind of a financial institutions moving into salary payments, if you like. And Wizall is a fintech in West Africa, in Senegal, and it offers digital wallets. And these wallets include salary receipts and social transfers, but also domestic payments, taxes, bill payments, school fees. And we also partner with local banks on particularly the salary payments part, and also remittance service providers for the remittances part. Now it has a dedicated digital platform for employers, which includes, for example, NGOs, public sector, also the railway of Senegal is onboarding on that for salary and social payments. Senegal is an interesting case because they estimated there that it's about, you pay about 1% transaction fee on digital wages, but 2 to 7% on cash-based wages. And we have done recently, UNCDF recently done a survey among migrant workers only, which is showing that 8 out of 10 migrant workers received their salaries in cash in the expensive way. So neither the benefits are there for the employer or the employee for that matter. So there's a big opportunity in that market as well. Now, third one is Singtel, which is a mobile network operator with a mobile wallet operating in Singapore. And they have a digital wallet that offers domestic payments, but also international remittances, insurance, and a range of others. And they found, for them being let's say a telco, that migrants can be a significant customer segment in terms of, for example, sending remittances volumes. So the wallet includes remittance services for migrant workers, and that can also then receive their salaries at the same time. And it simplifies also a bit the payroll for them, of course, as well as for the employers, given that it's such a large base of people. Yeah, if we move to the next slide. So just some sort of, we have these 5 distinct case studies, and we'll hear 2 more later. But what are sort of 5 commonalities across very distinct cases here? Well, first of all, the need for financial services for migrant workers doesn't stop with digitizing their wages or only remittances. They need also airtime top-up, bill payment, migrant insurance. And often this is, in all cases, done through partnerships with financial institutions. So banks, fintechs, and wage service providers. And there's also some interesting innovations, as Annalisa will present, at the back end, at the infrastructure level as well, happening at the moment, which I think 10 years ago weren't even possible. The second thing is that we see that migrants are a specific market segment. They require slightly different marketing, slightly different delivery systems. For example, you need to have the apps, of course, in multiple languages. KYC works slightly different for international remittances as would work for domestic payments as well. Financial institutions also worked with employer and employee organizations to leverage their networks or each other's networks and enhance service delivery. And there's a clear need with migrants. There's always a clear need for a physical delivery network. For example, agents, factories, bank branches. But that's because there's always serious safety and trust concerns with migrants, which may be more than with sort of the average adult population in the country, let's say. Last but not least, all case studies also found that they functioned, of course, in a specific market ecosystem. Labor and financial markets are perhaps the most important markets in the world, and they're highly regulated. So that will determine also what a private sector partner can provide or cannot provide. And it will matter for growth and scaling of these unique business models as well. I'll stop at that. If there's any questions, feel free to chat, and I'll pass the floor back to, I suppose, Valerie.
Yes, thank you very much, Robin, for giving us this overview of your study and pointing out the very important facts that migrant workers need a variety of financial services. Thanks for going through the different business models that you have explored, and also about stressing the importance of partnership at country level to ensure the products benefits fully the workers. Let us move on with our program, and I would like to introduce you now to our second speaker, who is Ivan Alias. Ivan is the Deputy Chief Commercial Officer at Merchant Trade in Malaysia. Merchant Trade is a fast-growing non-bank digital financial service provider operating in Malaysia, where around 2 million workers are migrant workers. Merchant Trade is a key player on the remittance market. It has also pioneered digital wage solutions for enterprises and their workers, many of them being migrant workers, in different sectors, including in agriculture and construction. So Ivan, please, can you share with us your experience in designing and offering digital wage payment solutions for migrant workers? And also, if you could give us a little bit of insight on what drives workers' adoption and how does it contribute to their empowerment as well as the empowerment of their families? The floor is yours. Thanks.
Thanks, Valerie. And hello, everyone. Thanks for the introduction. So I'll be going through a few slides and just showing the evolution of merchant trade and how the thought behind coming out with a product like our digital solution product has helped the underbanked, the unserved, and also the unbanked segment in embracing this digital financial inclusion. And so I will go through an introduction of merchant trade. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So this is just a snapshot of merchant trade. I think Valerie has already introduced merchant trade earlier, but just want to reiterate. So merchant trade is the largest MTO in Malaysia. We control 25% of the market share. On top of that, we are also the largest digital wage payment provider, non-bank, in the country right now. I know there's a lot of information on this slide, but if there's one thing that I want you to take away from here, it's which will be very important later as I go through what helps with the adoption of digital payments with migrant workers, is that we are also the largest in terms of our network present, right? Merchant Trade operates on a hybrid ecosystem. We have both our digital services. On top of that, we also have about 1,000 touch points, consisting of 94 of our own branches and more than 800 of appointed agents and merchants across the country. We are also a telco provider. We are an MVNO, and this is very important, right? Because a wallet without a stable connectivity or a phone service will not be useful when the migrant workers is trying to transact. Can we go to the next slide? Next slide, please. Yeah, just a bit of Malaysia landscape. Valerie has touched about this. So as of 2022, there are about 2.2 million documented migrant workers in Malaysia, with an additional 1.2 to 3.5 undocumented, consisting of asylum seekers, refugees, and undocumented workers in the country. Next, please. Yep. So, before we came out with our digital solution product, really the question that we had is that, and that the problems that we were facing is that majority of migrant workers were still receiving wages in cash. Can we go to the next slide? And when we were interviewing some of the customers of our own at the branches, or when we were visiting the hostels that they live in, 65%, there's just some stats, right? 65% of the monthly wages they receive will be sent back home. And the fact that only less than 9% of the customers had access to financial services, basically the rest of them didn't have the access to transact or store the additional 35% in a safe financial product, right? And that fueled our mission to offer and to bridge the gap that exists within our community. Next slide, please. And that's why in 2018, we launched our product, right, which is Merchant Trade Money, which is a Visa prepaid card that comes with a digital wallet. And really, this has revolutionized some of the way the migrant workers in this case have transact and also manage money. And today, our impact is that close to about 900,000 have been using our services, e-wallet services, in the country, and majority of them are unbanked or underserved in this case. Yeah. Next. So these are some of the, so I won't go in detail, but I guess you would, majority of you would have already known. So these are some of the services that they can utilize, not just within the app, but because it's a card base, a Visa card base, some of them can transact over the counter, withdraw money, etc. Next, please. Yeah, and so then in 2019, when we launched, I mean, a year after we launched the product, because we had a lot of touch points where the workers could come and cash in, cash out. Really, then we pivoted our position, right? Is that why don't we go and approach the companies, right? So we identified few employers that had huge migrant workers workforce within their company, and without disrupting a lot of their processes internally, right? So we work with their vendors, we work with their IT team, and to integrate into their system to enable a seamless disbursement into the migrants' e-wallet account without any major disruption. And this has helped to increase adoption or within the employers as well. And to date, we have more than 800 employers that have been transacting, have been using our services to pay wages to their workers. And more than 120 are receiving direct salary from their employers into the account. Next, please. So back to the question, Valerie, that you had. What are some of the success factors? I've listed 5, but I won't go through all of them. If there's one thing that that the team, through our engagement, not just with the employers but also with the employees themselves, right? The one thing that they all think that helped with pivoting and adopting this is that it helps with the safety and the security of their hard-earned wage, right? Compared to cash, compared to checks, and that's why within merchant trade, if you look at our IT, right, a lot of focus and emphasis has been on IT security, right? Because these are workers' hard-earned wages, and if you look at how much the workers stored within the app, right? Traditional banks, if you talk to the banks, the balances within the CASA, right, the savings account, it's really, really low, right? Because they just withdraw and they will probably just keep the cash. But because we have not only we have given them the visibility, right, transparency of from a financial digital app for them to track and spend, therefore they are more comfortable in storing large amounts. I won't tell you how much, but that it's definitely greater than the market norm. The second is that for it to be successful, we have also included a lot of different products within the app, right? And there's the one product that really sells on top of the mobile reloads and airtime transfer is that we have our own micro insurance product. So Merchant Trade Insure, which is what we call our insurance division, is the first in Malaysia that allows migrant workers to buy insurance policy for their own, right? So traditionally, how that works here is that the employers would buy a group scheme for the workers, and that's for basic coverage and covers during working hours. But right now, the employees, right, in this case, the workers, and we see a lot of transaction happening, is that they buy small premium ticket items for their own to cover, whether it's an income replacement, critical illness product, or even a life insurance product for themselves. So having enough financial products within the app, it's one of the success factors to encourage adoption within the migrant communities. Can we go to the next one? Yeah, I won't go into details of the case study, but what happened here, just to share, if anyone wants more information, I'm happy to take it on a separate session. But basically what we have done here, so Aring is actually a plantation town, right? So we went there with the intention to digitalize the wage of the migrant workers. what happened after that is that even the locals, right, the Malaysians who are already banked, move in to our ecosystem along with the merchants that support the estates as well. So this is a very interesting case study. I will take it separately as well. Can we go to the next one? Okay. So this is really my last slide, and if there's one thing that I want the audience to take away from Valerie is that providing a financial product alone is really not enough, right? We have to, there has to be a development of a support framework for this underserved, underbanked segment, especially the migrant workers, right? So we have identified 3 of the issues that that is top of their mind when they are adopting a digital wage or digital payment solution, right? The first is location and geographical barriers, right? And I'll share with you a case or a true story, right? When I implement, or when our team goes and implement a salary disbursement services or introduce to our employers, the first thing that our employers will always ask, despite us having customer support guys on the ground, is they want to know where's the nearest location, physical location that their workers can go if they encounter problems using the card or services, right? They want something permanent, right? So that's why, back to my first slide, growing our network base, right? Network presence, physical presence is important in this case. The second one is we also have developed a lot of demos, step-by-step guides, know-how videos, and also appointed local community influencers, right, within their groups to teach them how to use the services. And that's why the digital adoption within our app, it's really more than 50% currently, and it's just growing with these videos and know-how tools. The last one is that I dare say that we are the only financial services player in the country, especially when it comes to digital wages, that has dedicated native language speakers and our customer support. So if a Bangladeshi were to call into our customer service, and they can actually speak to a Bangladeshi personnel and help them in their problems, or help them diagnose the problems that they may be facing, right? So yeah, this is really the end of my presentation. Over to you, Valerie.
Thank you very much, Ivan, for this dive actually in your services and products in Malaysia for the migrant workers. Super refreshing and inspiring for all of us who are working on this topic of digital wage payment. I have now the pleasure to introduce you to our third speaker for this panel today. So our third speaker is Annalisa Placesi. Annalisa is currently the UK and the EU Governmental and Development Organizations Relationship Manager for MFS Africa. MFS Africa is the largest payment gateway. So Annalisa, I would like to ask you actually to share with us your experience in creating an ecosystem that connects various players in the money transfer industry and offers digital payment solutions, but also digital wage payment solutions and other services for migrant workers and their employers. If you could also touch upon the role of a payment aggregators like MFS Africa in promoting this agenda of wage digitization innovations, while ensuring always responsible digital financial service practices. The floor is yours, Annalisa.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you to the ILO and to the UNCDF for hosting this wonderful session. And also thank you to my fellow panel members. Let me start indeed with who we are at MFS Africa and why we are in the business of digital payments. If we can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So MFS Africa is Africa's largest payment gateway. We started operating in 2009 as a small fintech, and today we're truly a global organization. We operate in over 35 countries on the African continent, And we enabled over 1,000 corridors. Actually, this week we're celebrating the 500 million mobile wallet connection. So it's no longer 400, and that represents truly 80% approximately of all the mobile wallets across Africa. We have one mission. It's clear, it's simple. We exist because we want to make borders matter less. And for us, borders are the economic borders, the social borders. We exist because we want to create access. We want to create opportunities for individuals and organizations across the African continent. And we are accelerating this financial inclusion journey and hope that others join us as well. If we can move on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So what is it that we do? So MFS Africa has created an ecosystem, and I'm going to try to simplify this very succinctly. So if you picture this yellow bubble in front of you as the payment ecosystem designed by MFS Africa, through this ecosystem, we enable the movement of funds from place A to place B. And on place A, so under place A, we have the sending entities. These could be enterprises, SMEs that have a need to pay their employees, their staff. They could be NGOs, they could be commercial organizations, they could be fintech. There could be NGOs that are trying to digitize their cash and voucher assistance programs, their disbursement programs across multiple countries. Or they could be individuals that are, for example, sitting here in London, where I am, and trying to send funds back home to family members across one or two countries in Africa. So this is the sending side, the place A that we have on the one end. On the other hand, under place B, we have the mobile telco operator. So we have the telco organization, the mobile network organizations. We have money transfer organizations, we have banks and other financial institutions. And these partnerships enable us to terminate these payments into multiple stores of value, into that choice, that diversity of terminations that Robin alluded to, that is so important for financial inclusion purposes. So it doesn't really matter if you are Annalisa sitting in Lilongwe in Malawi, having a bank account with EcoBank Malawi. It doesn't matter if you are Annalisa sitting in Kampala in Uganda, having a mobile wallet with Airtel Uganda. Or it doesn't matter if you're Annalisa sitting in Dakar in Senegal and you have a mobile wallet with Orange Senegal, because we have enabled all of those connections in the back end, behind the scenes, and hence we can simplify all of that for you by simply being a one-stop shop for the entire African continent. So as you can see here, we have hundreds of partners from the MTN, the Airtel, the Vodacom, the banks, and all of that. And we have established all these partnerships because truly we want to enhance simplicity. We exist to simplify. We exist to create access. And we want to do this at scale because we want to connect those organizations to these opportunities for scale as well. We are doing this because we want to enhance security and traceability. We know that the security and transparency of these flows are critical for all the players in the value chains. We also want to do this because we want to harmonize the landscape. And this speaks to the role of an aggregator like MFS Africa. We do have a role to play in trying to harmonize a landscape that historically has been fragmented. And we have seen a lot of progress in recent years already. So we want to continue on that journey. And finally, we want to do this because together we can all bring the cost down. And these are the costs for the employers, the cost for the migrant workers, the cost for the individuals sending remittances back home. Everyone benefits if we do this together at an ecosystem level. This would not be possible if the anchor of everything wouldn't be interoperability. We can only do this because we have created this ecosystem based on interoperability, based on all these diverse connections and terminations into different stores of values, into multiple partners, into multiple African countries. And so that's how we have designed the entire environment. Let me give you some examples of real life use cases, real life partners' needs, whereby we digitize the payment and we actually accelerated that inclusion journey. So, for example, we are working with an SME in Uganda. They have workers across the country. Some of them have bank accounts with Stanbic, others have mobile wallets with Airtel Uganda, and others with MTN Uganda. Imagine if you're sitting in an office, you're trying to pay all your workers, you will need to replicate one payment process 3 times because of these 3 partners. Through us, because again, we build this interoperable environment, you can simply do this once and boom, the payment goes through and the funds end into the respective store of value. We have cooperative of farmers that do the same thing with smallholder farmers being paid across Kenya and Rwanda. Again, same thing, multiply the number of financial services providers in one country for all the number of countries that you operate in. We have a number of money transfer organizations partners, the likes of MoneyGram, of TapTapSend. We have built a huge number of corridors intra-Africa and into Africa to enable those remittances corridors. So if I am Annalisa sitting in London, I can go onto my TapTapSend wallet and I can send funds back home, and the funds are received immediately on a real-time basis and very transparently. So these are just some examples of some of the real-time use cases that we help our partners and the ecosystem with. Finally, let me just conclude with some of the key benefits, some of the insights that we have seen across our experience, across our journey so far. And let me break this down by 3 groups: from the perspective of the employer, the perspective of the workers, migrant and non, and from the perspective of the ecosystem. And this is where it gets really exciting, and I hope that you all get as excited as I am. So from the employer's perspective, surely, the greatest lessons learned and big benefits that we're seeing is just the simplification of these payment processes. Regardless of whether you work in one country or multiple, imagine all the times you need to replicate this process for your workers, for your employees, for your vendors. This is all done once, and this simplification brings great benefits to the resourcing and the, just operation day-to-day that you're facing with. It has enhanced security, it has enhanced transparency and traceability. There's an audit trail for every single operation, and hence this adds an extra layer of comfort, of assurance to our partners. And last but not least, faster delivery. All of these payments are processed in real time, and hence that brings comfort, that brings security, that brings safety to the sender as well as to the recipient. The faster delivery is also a big important benefit for the migrant worker and all workers in general, and as well as the remittance, senders and receivers. Having the knowledge and the awareness that funds can be sent and received in a matter of minutes from the UK to Uganda or from Rwanda to Kenya, it's just a huge comfort for all of our partners. So we leverage the ubiquity of mobile money, for example, to create and expand that access to accelerate that financial inclusion journey. And lastly, cost efficiency. We have been able to make these operations more cost effective by working on these partnerships, on these corridors at a scale level. And finally, from the ecosystem perspective, back to the initial question, what is our role as MFS Africa? We exist because we are on a financial inclusion journey. We exist because we want to make borders matter less for the migrant workers, for all the workers, for all the employers, for everybody across Africa. We want to create access And we want to work with all the different players within the value chain to harmonize and simplify all these processes. We want to create these opportunities. We really want to increase the number of corridors. We have done a great job so far, and hope that we will continue to do that. And finally, we're all compelled by the SDGs to actually do our part. We want to bring the cost of remittances down as well. We want to respond to that particular SDG goal. And we are doing so. It's a journey, we'll get there, and we made incredible progress. And we hope that other partners will come to us and be willing to work with us on this journey to increase financial inclusion, financial freedom across Africa as well. Because ultimately, as we believe at MFS Africa, the only currency that matters is access. Thank you, Valerie, back to you.
Thank you very much, Annalisa, for sharing your experience and for sharing with us the impressive results, actually, that MFS Africa has achieved. You have mentioned really the benefits with regards to cost, to convenience. We have a question from the audience that is mentioning that workers or remittance senders, in particular, consider also other factors, right? Like so convenience. I think you have proven that your solutions are super convenient, but what about that data security when the users are choosing providers? If you could share a little bit your experience with that. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you, Valerie, and thank you for the question to the audience, from the audience. Definitely data security, data protection is core, is critical. So from a security perspective, we still have this visual of this yellow bubble of the ecosystem. We have ring-fenced our own ecosystem, our payment hub, as we call it internally, with extra security. We operate our own sanction screening as well to add that extra layer of comfort, because we want to make sure that, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that all of the parties within the payment flow are protected and are safeguarded. So data security continues to be, in the top 2 priorities for us, and will continue to be because of the value and the role that they play.
Thank you, Annalisa, for elaborating on this point. Maybe I would like to ask Ivan actually the same question. What has been the experience of merchant trade in dealing with this additional factors that migrant workers look at?
Yep. So Valerie, thanks for the question. I'm just going to take this on a different approach, right? Just give you a use case. Since Annalisa has already covered security, I'll go for convenience, right? So one of our employers who, this is a feedback from an employer, since adopting our services, he has said that the workers' productivity has increased. And I'll tell you why, right? Because previously when they had to send emergency funds, let's not talk about the monthly wages they need to send back, right? Which they have already timed it for. On payday, they will go to the nearest town, do their shopping, and on top of that, send money, right? But really what's crucial here is that when they need to send the emergency fund, somebody at home that needs money for whether it's education or for medical, is that they will take the day off, get the supervisors to drive them to the nearest town, which often, and in our case, we serve a lot of plantation workers, and from the plantation to the nearest town can go up to 40 to 50 kilometers before reaching the nearest money transfer operator, and it operates only in the daytime. And that's a day wage gone, productivity gone. And right now, because of our services, even though it may not be the cheapest, we don't claim that we are always necessarily the cheapest as compared to a lot of the other players. But because of this convenience, almost 100% of the workers within that estate have transacted using us when it comes to emergency, instead of relying on middlemen or even their supervisors to bring them to the nearest town. So yes, when it comes to convenience, that is definitely also a significant consideration on top of just price. I hope I answered the audience question based on that.
Yes, thank you very much, Ivan, for those details. Now I would like to give the floor to Robin, actually, to tell us a little bit about the next steps with this study and with this the findings that you got from the case studies of the financial service providers. Please, I give you the floor, and you will be much welcome to close also this webinar at the same time. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Valerie. Yeah, so the study will come out soon. I think we will certainly make it before the end of the year. And coming to the question previously that was raised, another major issue that because we've done another study as well, where we've interviewed 3,000 senders and receivers of remittances, and trust is of course also a major factor beyond that, goes well beyond price and also issues of convenience. So that's also another aspect there. No, like I said, study will come out soon. We'll have one on these 5 super interesting, different, but very practical case study examples. And so, yeah, once that's out, we'll be happy to share that across, not just with the migrant community that we normally work with, but also the financial inclusion community as well, and the remittance service providers as well, of course. So I think that's kind of maybe if I may sum up this whole webinar, the key link here. We have remittances markets, financial markets, service providing, and employers, employees. So there's a lot of future collaborations needed, and we're well on our way, I would say.
Thank you very much, Robin, and bye everyone. Thank you very much for your participation, and thank you for it speakers today.